answer my questions, okay? Do we know who the shooter is?
We think we do. It's one of the hairstylist's husbands. We think we do, but I don't know because the girl that came in here is just hysterical.
Okay.
Why do they have the door open?
Yeah, you guys need to shut the doors and hide somewhere, okay?
He's just trying to shoot everybody in.
Okay.
Down and put my hands over my neck like a air raid drill, and was just hoping he wasn't going to kill me.
Okay, that's okay. We have police and paramedics on the way, and you said that how many people are shot, do you know? Okay, we're on our way. What is your name?
My name is...
And you're at the hair salon?
I'm hiding behind a car in the parking lot.
So today I'm going to tell you the story of Scott Dekraai. This took place on October 12th, 2011, and 9 people were shot. Only 1 survived. It was the deadliest mass killing in Orange County history. This was known as the Seal Beach shooting. Now, the entire purpose of my channel is to make my mother proud, so please subscribe if you do like this video. I'm trying to get to 100,000 as soon as possible. I want to show my mum her son is no longer a bum. Now, we can move on from me acting desperate. I'll tell you the story, I'll tell you what happened, I'll give you my thoughts as well. But I want you to consider the theme of today's video, and that is composure and decision making. And I think they are vital to life. I know it sounds simple, I know, but I'll get to more later. So, we start on Wednesday, October 12th. It's 1:21 p.m. This is the year 2011. Police respond to reports of shots being fired. I found a few newspaper articles, so I'm just going to read them out to you, right? Now, the event took place at Salon Meritage, which is on 500 Pacific Coast Highway. Scott was armed with 3 handguns. He reloaded at least once during the attack, and the attack lasted 2 minutes. Now, in the salon itself, there were about 20 people. Some managed to escape by running into the street, and some managed to hide in neighboring businesses. 6 people were declared dead at the scene, and 3 survivors were taken to hospital, where 2 of them later died. Now, the key victim, I mean, they're all key, of course, but where motive or something of that nature comes into it is that one of the victims was Michelle Fournier, who was the ex-wife of Scott's. She was an employee at the salon. The suspect, Scott himself, his full name, he was 41 at the time, his full name was Scott Evans Dekraai. He was from Huntington Beach, California. He was arrested without incident after being stopped while driving in a white pickup truck about 1/2 mile from the scene of the crime. Now, Dekraai was wearing body armor at the time of the arrest. The incident was the worst shooting spree in Orange County since the Fullerton massacre in July 1976, where 7 people died. There had actually only been 1 murder in Seal Beach during the previous 4 years, and a candlelight vigil was held in the evening of the next day for the victims of the shooting. In fact, a fund was sent up to 8 victims of the shooting, where around $400,000 was raised. And Sandy Fannin, who is now a widow as the owner was also killed, did say that she was going to open like a remodel version of the salon. This was back in 2012. So if you look at the victims, so you have Victoria Butso, who was 54 years old, who worked at the salon. You also had David Couette, who was 64. He died after being shot in his Land Rover, which was parked outside the salon. Couette was the final victim and was shot through the front windshield and passenger window of his vehicle. Scott stated in his statement to the police the reason why he shot David, who was outside, is because when Scott ran outside, he thought David was like an undercover police officer. We move on to Randy Lee Fannin, 62, who was the owner of the salon, and according to eyewitnesses, he was the first person to be shot. He did tell Scott in the moment, "Please don't do this, there is another way, let's go outside and talk." Scott obviously didn't listen. We move on to Michelle Dashback, 47 years old. She was a customer who was having her hair done. Then we move on to Michelle Marie Fournier, who is the wife of Scott. Lucia Bernice Condas, 65 years old. She was a customer having her hair done. Laura Webb, who was 46, she worked at the salon, and she was actually doing her mother's hair at the time, who was called Hattie Stretz. She was 73 years old. And then Christy Lynn Wilson, 47 years old, who also worked at the salon. A little bit more details into Scott. As I mentioned, he was 41 years old. He was divorced from his wife Michelle in 2007 after they were married for about 4 years. Now, court records showed that he had been engaged in a bitter custody dispute over his 8-year-old son. And there was an incident that took place in February 2007 where he was hurt, or he was in an accident on board a tugboat, and it is said since then he was never the same. He became very erratic and hot-headed, and it is said that he was suffering from post-traumatic stress, but it is unclear whether this incident was the cause. He did get into a scuffle with his stepfather, which resulted in a restraining order being filed against him, and he wasn't allowed to use firearms. But this only lasted a year, and the firearm had expired by the time this shooting, the firearm barring of the firearm, sorry, had expired at the time of the shooting. So a court hearing took place on Tuesday, October 11th, which was the day before the incident, which recommended a near equal custody arrangement between Scott and his wife. So in terms of motive, and kids in a custody arrangement are one of the biggest issues, right? That seemed okay. Like equal custody seems something both parties would be happy with, but that would be my guess. Now, Orange County District Attorney Tony Rakakas, I hope I said that correctly, announced on October 14th, 2011, that Dekraai would be charged with 8 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. He also indicated that his office would seek the death penalty.
I've charged Scott Evan Dekraai with 8 felony counts of special circumstance first-degree murder. The special circumstances for multiple murders. He's also charged with 1 felony count of attempted murder. The defendant is being held without bail and is scheduled to be arraigned this afternoon. We're continuing to investigate this case. When a person in such a case as this goes on a rampage and kills innocent people in an indiscriminate bloody massacre, I will, of course, seek the death penalty.
Scott did say, though, that on the morning of the shooting, he had argued with his ex-wife over the telephone, causing him to consider killing her. And this is what I mean by composure and decision-making and anger. But I'll get to his psychology in a second. He also said that David Couette, the guy that was outside, he confirmed to the police the reason why he killed him is, of course, because he thought he was a police officer. Now, on November 29th, 2011, Scott had his arraignment in which he entered a plea of not guilty, which is laughable because he's clearly guilty. And the trial was scheduled to start around October 15th. Now, Scott was wearing a mustard yellow jumpsuit, his hands handcuffed in front of him, and he said nothing during his arraignment. Now, in the courtroom, there was the families of the victims, and dozens of family members and friends attended the hearing. And in the hallway before the court was opened, there was hugs and tears. Some wore pins of photos and loved ones. Some carried photos before they could enter the courtroom. The Orange County Sheriff's deputy, however, warned them to have no outbursts, saying he knew there was much emotion tied to the case. In the further research I did, it was revealed that Scott actually spent the past several years in pain, haunted and hobbled by a gruesome boat accident, which I mentioned earlier, that left him unable to work. Now, if you take that, him in a dispute with his wife over custody of their children, it seemed to me all of this probably was, like, if you put it all together, he probably was stressed. Scott himself, his friends call him Scotty. He was a swimmer, a surfer, a sport fisherman who grew up in Long Beach and followed his fisherman grandfather onto the water. He worked for years as a crewman on fishing charters and was so popular that groups often asked if he would be aboard. Scott later worked at Catalina Express boats and then moved onto tugboats. He was studying to get his tugboat captain's license when the aforementioned accident ended his career in 2007. So, the incident itself, a tow cable pinned a fellow crewman against the railing, killing her as Scott rushed to help. According to accounts of the incident, the cable then ripped across Scott's leg, almost severing it. Later, the pain from the nerve damage was so intense that Scott couldn't sit in a chair long enough to work even at a desk job. The injury marked a turning point in Scott's life. Records suggest within a month he had filed for divorce from his wife of 4 years, touching off a vicious custody battle that dragged into the day she died. Now, according to the court documents of the divorce itself, Michelle did say that Scott was physically abusive and displayed the manic mood swings of bipolar disorder. She confided in a close friend and confirmed that Scott had twice threatened to kill her, once saying he would shoot her at the salon. A psychiatrist wrote in the divorce court file that Scott suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder from the tugboat incident. Now, Scott did file a personal injury lawsuit against the tugboat company in early 2010. Records show his attorney Brian Majana said he was seeking payment for lost wages, future medical expenses, and pain and suffering. The company settled a month later. Records show that Magana said the terms of the settlement were confidential. So, I mean, this could have been a way to help him in life, finance, and all that stuff, but it's unclear how it did. Now, Scott himself had lived at least since 2008 in a single story grey house on Melody Lane in Huntington Beach. An attorney for his ex wife said he had been seeking full custody of their children, but a court ordered review had recently recommended against that. So now I want to talk about Scott and his behavior. If we put all the pieces together, Scott was annoyed at his wife, not justified, of course, but she obviously pissed him off, which is why they were probably getting a divorce. Again, I'm not taking his side, I'm just saying I'm looking at it from his side, right? He wanted to keep the children, she wasn't having any of it, which is fair. I mean, you'd want to split the children 50-50, like in terms of who keeps them, who, and all that stuff. Then, when he has the boat incident, I can certainly understand the post traumatic stress. A friend of his on the boat probably died, like a good friend of his, I'm saying. He himself was injured. He can't work. His wife's pissing him off. He's feeling a lot of pain. He is, let's just assume around that time, he's probably 35, right? He's not 41 yet. 35, 36, 37, let's just say. And now he looks at his life and he thinks, I can't work. My wife, I've left my wife, or she's left me, whichever way he thinks of it in his head. I don't know what's happening with my children. I can't provide for my children because I can't work. I've just lost a friend. I can't stop thinking about it. Like in his head, there must be thoughts continuously over and over and over. I obviously can't relate to that kind of sad story. I've never had incident after incident after incident like that. But see, in life, when you're angry, right? And then you're angry, and then something else happens, and you get more angry, and something else happens, and you get more angry. The whole point is to remain composed. Because if you're patient just for 1 second, just for 2 seconds, just for 3 seconds, in the end, you can ask yourself, does it really matter? When he says that he's going to go to the salon and he's going to kill his wife, there are times when we all use sensational language, right? I'm going to kill him. Oh my God, he's dead, right? Like, if you're annoyed at someone, right? You use hyperbole words and metaphoric language you use to try and emphasize the anger you're feeling in that moment. But of course, 99.9% of the time, the word you say you don't mean. It's just you letting rid of your emotions. Now, I myself, I've been through a divorce, right? My ex-wife cheated on me. Now, I obviously didn't experience the trauma that Scott experienced, on this tugboat, but I can slightly relate to divorce proceedings, right? And all I can do is give my own opinion from my own experiences. And I've learned that most friends that I've had and myself, when you're in a relationship and the relationship ends, right? There's always one person who's more aggrieved than the other. You're both hurting, right? But there seems to be one person is going to hurt more or show the hurt more than the other person. I think the reason for this is because a lot of the time, people, men or women, who want to leave in a relationship, they prolong it because as they realize in their head they don't want this anymore, they get over it, right? So they may not leave at that moment, and they may not tell their partner, I don't want you anymore in that moment. But that's because subconsciously they are slowly getting over their partner while they're still with their partner. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then once they've gotten over it and they've gotten used to it, they then have the courage to say, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore. It's clear from what I'm reading, Scott was the one that felt aggrieved more, and the incident on the boat emphasized his discontent. But when you are angry, and it doesn't matter what the level of anger is, see, I get pissed off every weekend, right? When I watch my team play and they're not playing well, you get mad like you do in any sport or in any form of competition. So for me, when I get mad, and I mean really mad, when I'm annoyed, when someone really pisses me off, and I do have a propensity to take things a little personally, so I guess I do get annoyed at things I shouldn't get annoyed at, and I'm not afraid to say that. This is who I am. I understand my flaws, right? I keep telling myself in that moment, what does this actually mean? Right? Like you break up with a girlfriend. What does that actually mean? You know what it means? Nothing. It means fuck all. 7 billion people on this planet. Don't get hung over one. And in the case of Scott, and again, I am being naive because I don't understand his mentality and his trauma and everything he experienced. I get it. But again, I can only give my own inference based on what I'm reading and based on what I am seeing. And I get it. His ex-wife pissed him off. I understand that. I don't care who's right or wrong. I understand the dilemma he's in. But nobody is worth killing over. There's not a single person out there, no matter what they've done to break your heart or to let's say we don't know, but let's just say he found out she cheated on him. Right? Let's just say hypothetically, right? That's not worth killing over. Let's just say she used the kids in her favor against him, hypothetically. That is not worth killing over. Let's just say that she went up to Scott and said, look, mate, thank you. I don't want you anymore. That is not worth killing over. So he was weak, overly emotional, and the screws in his head were obviously let loose. Again, with context in mind, with his trauma, but I just think he had literally had enough, and he thought, "Fuck this shit," and he did what he did. And maybe I'll end on this. Maybe it was a like how many times have you guys felt annoyed and upset or whatever, but you've held it in, right? And sometimes it feels like a weight on your shoulders. Sometimes. But have you guys ever noticed that when you actually tell someone about it, even for that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you actually feel better, right? You kind of get it off your chest, so to speak. Not necessarily to the person who's annoyed you, but just to any friend, right? It seemed to me Scott had nobody to talk to, and it seemed to me this anger that was building, he didn't have a shoulder that he could cry on, or a shoulder that he could, you know, um, gain comfort from to make himself feel better about the situation. Scott himself was sentenced to 8 terms of life imprisonment without parole and 1 term of 7 years to life for attempted murder. He is currently imprisoned at the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in Corcoran. Thank you so much for listening.